I love that.
Thank you. Because then when we travel like to the US and all the places, like I'm not in one place.
Ooh. Was that a bug he was getting, or
No,
was
it was
he
a
trying to alert
sound.
us?
Are we good? Yeah? So, hello.
Hi.
Is the mic good, you guys? Is the mic good for both of us?
Hi. Is the mic good?
Can you
Closer
better
to my mouth?
closer to you?
Hello.
Is it better? Is it for me
Okay.
too? You guys,
Cool.
just so you know, my team got us this mics because I move too much. Okay? That's why they did that, okay? But it's okay. We'll rock it. So, I am very, 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 very excited today because I have Lauren here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited. So, here's the thing, and it's so funny. Before I moved to Dubai, I was researching something about skincare
Uh-huh.
on YouTube, and then I found your video.
Oh, no
And then
way.
you were talking about skincare, and then you said your age. It's like
Uh-huh.
40.
Yep.
And I was like, this girl is not 40. I was like, that is not happening. And then you were talking about skincare and all that. And I was like, okay, I'm writing everything down that you're doing to have your skin.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
perfection. Like, literally, you guys, like, she has perfect skin. And then I started like following you on Instagram. And the other thing that draw me to you was that you were talking about spirituality.
Yes.
And to me, it was like interesting because I was like, wait a minute, like she lives in Dubai in the Middle East, but she speaks about spirituality
Yeah.
and about the moon and the stars and all that. And I was like, who is this woman? And then on top of that, I find out that you're one of the best beauty editors in the Middle East.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such a compliment. Thank you.
You are like you're known here. People love you. They have respect for you.
Mm,
So I wanted to know because you are originally from the U.S.
yes.
What made you come to Dubai?
My husband.
The
So
husband,
it's always the husband. We were living in Chicago at the time. We
right?
were newly married, and my husband's a fire protection engineer. Actually, I'm also an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer. That's how we met in
Wow.
university. But he was working in Chicago, and his company said to him, you know, there's this new building we want you to do the fire engineering on. It's going to be the tallest building in the world. And so that's how
Wow.
he ended up working with Dubai and the Dubai government and the building, the Burj Khalifa going up. And, you know, one thing led to another, and his company asked us to move out here. And growing up in the US, I was always in this bubble, and I knew there was a whole world out there. No one was talking
Right.
about it. I grew up in a very homogenous city, and I just wanted to explore. So for me, the idea of moving abroad was just so delicious and enticing. So I said, "Yes, let's do it."
So you back in the US, you
Mhm.
were also starting to become a nurse, right?
Yes, yes.
So how were you always interested in to become a beauty editor or beauty? Like, how
Yeah.
did you go from this to a beauty
Okay.
editor?
So I had the world's strictest parents growing up. My parents they were militant, and they said to me, "You have to be an engineer." And it was so unlike my personality. I wanted to get into beauty, fashion. I wanted to be a news anchor. There were so many things that were interesting
Oh
to me.
wow.
Definitely to be a beauty journalist living in New York City, wearing amazing clothes, going into work every day, corner office. I just wanted it all. But my parents said to me, "No, Lauren, you need to be a mechanical engineer." I grew
Wow.
up incredibly sheltered. I didn't realize that things like PR and marketing existed. I had no idea what the pathway was to get to where my aspirations truly
Right.
were. So I did what they said because they were scary. And I went to school to become an engineer, the whole time knowing I did not want to be an
Oh,
engineer. And that was a lot of work. It was a really hard
wow.
work too. Luckily, I've always been very academic, so it came naturally to me, but it was just so uninspiring to me. And after I graduated from my university, my husband and I moved to Chicago because he had just gotten a job with the company he still works for today. And I knew I needed to do something else. And I didn't know what else was out there for me. I also had crippling self-doubt, so the idea of being in front of a camera or doing anything with a lot of eyes on me terrified me. So my mom had been a nurse and my parents owned a home healthcare agency that was
Right.
very successful, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just be a nurse instead. So I went and got my master's degree, a master's of science in nursing, knowing the full time I really didn't want to be a nurse either. So when I was in school, I would always buy all the magazines. I would rip out the pages and put them on my wall. I did that in college. And, I just dreamed of this life I never
Right.
thought I could have. And I'm a big believer that, there's certain things we're destined to do in our
Right.
life. And for me, it was like a GPS. I was so far off track, but somehow it rerouted itself. And later
Wow.
on, I ended up becoming the beauty editor that I had dreamed about being 15, 20 years prior.
I love that.
Uh,
First of all, your parents could be Persians because
do you know
in the
everybody
Persians,
tells me that?
Persians are always like the parents are like you're going to be an engineer, a
Yeah.
lawyer or a doctor,
Yeah.
okay? That's it. Or, entrepreneur. We have that too. But so when you now that you are a beauty editor, like when you look back, are you still happy that you studied other things before you became a beauty editor or did you wish you could have started earlier?
The thing is, right now, I'm so happy and content with where my life is that I feel like everything leading up to it were
Right.
experiences that contributed to me being in the here and now, in
Right.
this now moment. So somehow it all kind of came together for me. And I think it came together in the way it was meant to. So, you can always look back and say, well, if I had done this differently, but then who knows where I'd be today.
That's true.
So I think, although it wasn't necessarily the path I dreamed of taking, it somehow makes sense in my overall life.
Can you tell the people that are watching what is a beauty editor exactly?
Oh my goodness. A beauty editor is somebody who sits at a desk and has every single beauty product that is current in the market sent to them. And we get to it's my dream job. I just get to be literally elbows deep in makeup, skincare, hair care,
Wow.
everything every day. I get to talk to brand founders, which is
Right.
so inspiring to me. And it's a complete 360 immersion into the world of beauty. And then I write about new products coming out. I write about new aesthetic treatments, which is a big one in Dubai. I get to try out all of these things. And
Amazing.
I just get to be surrounded by lots of creativity
Right.
and ingenuity on a daily basis. And I get to write about these things and go to wonderful events in Dubai that are beauty themed and really just live this amazing Dubai beauty life.
How do you decide what brands you're going to write about? Like walk me through the process of you getting all these products,
Uh-huh.
you meet the founders and everything. What is for you that you say, I'm going to talk about you and I'm going to write about you?
I get so there's so many different products and brands out there, and I'm also creating my own beauty brand. I'm in the process of it.
Oh, that's exciting.
And I can see the brand founders that have so much passion
Right.
behind their brands. Their products aren't necessarily white labeled and they're not just sticking some sort of name on the
Yes.
product and trying to push it out and make
Right.
some money. There's just so much passion and energy behind the
Right.
brand. I can feel that. I love supporting new brands because I know how important it is to them to get that coverage and to get their brand aligned with such a top tier name like Cosmopolitan.
Right.
So I'll always go out of my way to do what I can for the new brand founders. I also love the OGs.
Right.
And, there's brands that I've used when I was a teen that are still around today. And actually, do you remember the Lancome Juicy Tubes back in like early Y2K, early
Is it
2000s?
the
Yeah, it
yeah,
was a
yeah,
lip
yeah, yeah.
gloss and it was kind of like luxury meets everyday
Yes.
glam. And they just resurfaced again a
Right.
couple years ago, I found out, but they've just recently come across my on my desk. They were sent to me and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun." So, I love to like push that sort of thing out
Right.
there too. And then also, Dubai is such a special place
Yeah.
because the makeup here is unbelievable. The way women wear their makeup, and it's fun to explore that side of it too, and the artistry and just sort of I love it all. I love every aspect of it.
You said two things that, as you know, I have my own beauty brand and my
Yes.
own skincare brand. And we don't do anything white label. Like, we start from scratch. We work with
Amazing.
the best chemists in the world. And actually, my favorite thing about what I do is I'm always in the lab with the chemist and I make my
What?
own product. And then she
Wow.
watches and then she teaches me. And that's how I realized how much, I'm sorry to say this, but there's so much garbage out there
Mm.
in the skincare and makeup game. So it was always really important for me to know what we put in.
Yeah.
So, and then you also said that you like to support the young brands, the new ones. And I can really see that with you because we were just sitting before and you're like, oh my God, like send it to me. Let me
Yeah.
look at it and talk about it and write about it. Because it is very hard for a brand to, I mean, you know yourself now. You
Mhm.
create your own brand, and now you have to convince the world on
Yeah.
why they should buy yours and
Right.
not the other brand, right?
Right.
And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted you to be on this podcast because, like I said, you're really loved by the community
Oh,
because
thank you.
you're known to support other people. Um, so how is it for you with, like, what made you create or go after creating your own brand?
So creating my own brand is actually a dream I had since I was a young teen. And like I said, with my parents, that was not going to happen.
Right.
But I always wanted to be part of that beauty world. And if we want to get a little woo woo, because I love
Yes.
spirituality and everything, I was told I had a past life in Atlantis,
Oh, I
the
just got
lost city.
goosebumps.
And I had many past lives there, but one in particular, I owned an apothecary and I would create my own little tinctures and creams and whatnot in this apothecary.
Right.
And there was some sort of unfinished business in that lifetime that I am completing in this lifetime. So that's where just this, it's in my DNA. I mean, I've been wanting to create this brand since I can remember. And prior to that, I remember being a little kid and I convinced my mom to get this soap making kit and I
Right.
remember being in the kitchen and trying to make these glycerin soaps that came out terrible. But it's always been there for me.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by this world. And prior to moving to Dubai, I was looking into how to start your own makeup brand in Dubai. I was in Chicago Googling it, which there was like nothing
Uh,
available online. And I did take a drive around to the different manufacturers in this region just to
right.
see what was there. So it's something that's always been there and it's not going away. It's this spiritual tap on my shoulder.
It's a
That's oh
calling.
yeah, it's a calling. So I feel like I'm completing karma really is what it is. I'm balancing karma by doing this, but it's just something I'm so in love with and passionate about
Right.
and yeah, I plan on I just can't wait to see it through.
Ugh, I cannot wait to support you.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so excited. So, we talked about spirituality,
Mhm.
and I always, talk about it. Like, I started my spiritual journey like 17 years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, we all are spiritual,
Yeah.
but there's like I feel a type of like level on
Yeah.
spirituality, and spirituality at the end of the day means love, like loving yourself, right?
Mhm.
But what is I mean, I know for a lot of people spirituality means something else, right?
Yeah.
And right now it's becoming such a popular thing to be spiritual, and there's a lot of fake stuff out there,
Yeah. There
right?
sure
Like
is.
all these like gurus and
Yeah.
one thing that I cannot stand is if someone calls themselves a healer.
Okay.
I always have a huge problem with that because I'm like, you are a facilitator or you are a guide, but
That's
you are your own healer, right? It's
Yeah,
like
that's true.
I cannot go to you and heal you if you're not willing to do the work,
You're
right?
absolutely right. I feel the same way about the word guru. If someone
Yes.
calls himself a guru for anything, but especially for spirituality, I run the other
Me
way
too.
because to me that just is screaming fraud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's when I mean, I work with, a shaman back in Mexico,
Cool.
and he's helping me with my spiritual journey even more, and I go to Mexico once a month. I mean,
Mhm.
once a year. I wish it could be once a month. Once a year to see him and, work on certain things and traumas that I need to work on. But what does like spirituality mean to you, and how did you get into that world?
Well, usually when someone, becomes spiritual, they have some sort of traumatic incident
Right.
that sort of compresses them down and then they're at this breaking point and that's when the whole spiritual world seems to open. From the time I was a child, my mom always told me I was a witch. And she didn't mean it in a bad way, but she just meant that I was witchy. And I was because I was psychic.
Right.
And I would know that the phone was going to ring before it rang. One time, my mom I was sleeping, but she watched some documentary about this missing girl. And it completely traumatized her that night. It was something that actually had happened close to our hometown. And the next morning, I was laying in my bed. I woke up and I just kept thinking about this name, Mora, which is not a name that you hear very often, especially not in the US. It's Laura with an M. And I kept hearing Mora, Mora, Mora. And I went downstairs and I said to my mom, I just keep thinking of the name Mora this morning. And my mom was holding her coffee and she dropped the mug and she said, Stop, just stop doing that. And I said, What did I do? And I just saw her. It was the beginning of the day. And she said to me, I watched the most disturbing documentary last night about this missing girl, and her name was Mora. And she's like, You're doing that thing again. And it was always that thing that I would do. So I definitely always had my crown chakra open and my third
Oh.
eye open. As I went into my 20s, it was like my party trick. I would sometimes do something that was kind of psychic. And I'd just say,
I
guys, it's because
love
I'm a
that.
Scorpio. But, when I was in my mid 30s, my kids had gotten a little bit older. They didn't need me as much. I was a stay at home mom. And I really just wanted to have all of a sudden
Right.
just this craving for a career. But I felt like I didn't have anything to offer because I had these 2 degrees, which were essentially useless to me. And I knew I had this beauty yearning inside of me. And I wanted to just do something, and it was
Right.
making me really sort of depressed. And a friend said to me, "Well, why don't you start a beauty themed Instagram account? And you're always our go to for what to buy, and just start talking about that stuff." So I did. And I ended up, one thing led to another. I ended up applying to be an ambassador, which I had no idea what that meant at the time, for this brand. And I don't want to get myself in trouble here, so I'm gonna be a little vague, but it was for this brand that had a
Right.
subscription box service.
Right.
And so I signed up for it and I was, and then I ended up getting chosen, which I was so excited and I had to go through all these interview rounds. And I felt like I was getting some credibility and people were recognizing me. Of course, they weren't paying me for it, but I didn't care because I was doing something. Someone chose me. And I noticed a lot of red flags early on with this whole thing I was doing. And one month I got a box and they wanted me to promote a skin whitening cream.
Oh,
which I am so against. That goes against my,
no.
morals.
Yeah.
It goes against my character and my values, and I don't think anyone needs to whiten their skin. Just that whole world to me
Wow.
is just
It's a no-go.
yes,
No.
it's just so against everything I believe in. So I went to the CEO of the company and I told him as such. And I said, this also reflects so poorly on the brand. Like, why would you be promoting something like this? And I can't be associated with this. So this month, I'm not going to do any like social media
Wow,
posts
I
or
love
anything.
that.
I ended up getting fired. And so, and fired in a really rude way. And, it really broke me at the time because I felt like that was all I had. It was I attached so much of my ego to doing this uh ambassadorship program, and I was devastated that they got rid of me because I knew I was smart, I was intelligent, I had so much to offer. People would actually listen to me because I
Right.
had authenticity, and none of that was acknowledged. And although looking back on it, it's such a small, silly thing, but at the time it felt like the world was ending. And, right after that, I started seeing the triple digits everywhere. If people
Oh,
you see, like, the
yes.
angel numbers, 111, 222. And I also started seeing a life coach. She appeared to me out of nowhere. When I did meet her, I had this vision of her in the woods with, like, a cape and a hood over her,
Ooh,
and she was holding a basket full of herbs, which I now know is, like, some sort of past life connection I had with her. But I met this life coach, and she said to me, "Come do a session with me." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I will." And I didn't want to because I
right.
felt like I just had this stigma, I guess, against life coaches. A few months later, I realized my life was exactly the same and I was still feeling depressed and all this stuff. So I said, "Okay, I'll go see her." And I did, and she just started steering my life in this different direction. She was like, "You're in the 5D." And she started have like kind of pushing me towards manifesting and this whole spiritual world. It was as if there was this invisible zipper that got pulled down right in front of me, and I stepped into a different plane on this same in the
Right.
same area. And I felt like the universe was starting to speak to me, and it was saying, you can do anything you want, all your dreams can come true, you have
Right.
everything you need. And I started to work with that energy, and it responded to me,
Wow.
and my life has been different ever since.
So when you would, because I love how open you talk about all of
Yeah,
that. It's so beautiful.
thank
I'm
you.
sure, like back then, like 17 years ago, when I talked about spirituality and grounding and sun gazing and all that stuff and past life regression, people will look at me and be like, "The hell is wrong with you?" Right? It's
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
you're right. Like there's
Yeah,
something is wrong with you. And
yep.
to me, it was like, okay, I never had a problem talking about it because that's who I am. I say what
Uh-huh.
I think and what I believe in. But it was very interesting to see how they would look at me and how they look at me now because now it's so much more open
Yeah.
to talk about certain things like about spirituality. How did they look at you back then when you started talking about that?
Well, my husband thought I was nuts because he is very much just grounded into the 3D
Right.
and the world of duality. And so he still doesn't get it to this day, but he's just accepted it for what it is. And I lost some friends.
Right.
They thought that I had lost my mind, which in a way I kind of did, but they didn't realize I gained this beautiful new mind. But, some people were threatened by it, and then
Right.
others just it was like this new space had been created in my life, and I just started to find other people that were into it as well, and they understood it. And then I had a few friends actually go through their own spiritual awakenings as well. So it was a sort of a dicey time. It was
Right.
sort of choppy waters, and then it started
Wow.
to smooth out. And I became more confident in just saying, at first I was like, "Hey guys, so I'm into crystals," and now I'm just, I show in my stories sometimes, and just when people come over my house is full of crystals.
Me too.
Yeah, and
I
it's just
love
a
that.
calming, wonderful environment. I do notice, and actually, my daughter loves '90s movies. And so she and I will watch movies from the 90s, and she thinks they're retro. But
Wow.
I
That's
know,
so sad.
ancient. But a lot of times when they show spiritual like people
Yes,
in those movies, they make a mockery of them and they
that's
make them
true.
look like they're crazy.
That's true.
And so that was what was programmed into people's minds because when we watch TV or movies, it's called program, like
Yeah,
television program,
exactly.
and it's actually programming it. And so that was what was programmed into people's minds. And they thought, it's all, crazy business
Yeah,
and it's these wild, unhinged people.
because I feel like they do this because I learned because of my, spiritual journey, I started to understand who I am more and more. I
Mhm.
understood that, I need to really love myself first before I can love anyone
Yeah,
else.
true.
Because we're taught, especially as women, you need your soulmate, you need, to find the guy, you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
love the person, and it's never really about loving yourself. And I also learned through my journey as well that I don't need to be in anyone else's mold. I have my own
Yes.
mold.
Yep.
The more I understand this part and I
Mhm.
embrace my own mold, the more powerful I become, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're not going to be around from
Mhm.
brand or TV or whatever to buy certain things
Right.
because, they wanted that.
Yeah.
Because in every industry, especially, and I want to know how you feel about that,
Mhm.
but in the beauty world,
Mhm.
it's one of the most, and it's funny because we're both in it, but it's one of the most disturbing businesses
Mm.
or business because what we do, not we, but the industry is we show the women what they need to change,
Yeah.
right? In order for them to buy their products. Then
Mhm.
they buy their product, they find another angle on why they're not good enough, and then we
Yeah.
buy even more products,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I know you're there's probably, I'm sure one of the reasons why you're want to have your own brand is to change that world,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, one thing that I want to know, what happened December 2023?
Oh. Well, I was expecting something big to come because my astrologer told me I would have something big coming in December 2023, and a couple spiritual, I guess, coaches, psychics, had told me that something was going to be brewing. There was going to be some massive change that would happen in my life, and it would. I'd be sucked into it, and I, would have this whole new direction and that what I'm going in. So I thought it was going to be something great. I had been working so hard and I had been you know, just really pouring myself into my career and everything else. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have some big break. And actually it was in retrospect it was something great that happened, but at the time it was traumatic and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So it took me by complete surprise. I had felt a lump in my breast earlier in the month and I went and got it checked right away, but I didn't really think there would be anything serious going on. I thought maybe it was a cyst or some thick tissue. I've had thick tissue before that I've had ultrasounds on, and I just never saw breast cancer coming. So then I was given the diagnosis and I was just completely shocked. And it took my breath away. I
Wow.
felt every emotion you could possibly feel. And when I found out the news, I wasn't near any of my family. I was in Azerbaijan on a press trip.
Wow.
So it was really tough. I actually looked at the moon and gave it the middle finger. I was trying to take some power back. So, um, I did. I was in my hotel room and I looked up and it was a beautiful big full moon and I was like, I'm gonna give it to you, moon. As if the moon had anything to do with it. But anyways, so I came home.
So so you were on a press tour.
Yeah.
You how how did you get the news? And what was going through your mind in that moment?
So what had happened was I had found the lump and they did an ultrasound on it. I'm just gonna take a quick sip of water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please do.
I found the lump. I went to my doctor. She said, okay, she could barely feel it. I thought it felt huge. And she said, let's just go get an ultrasound. That's what we always do, anyways. So I went right away because it's Dubai and you just get things done. It's not like back in the US where it would have been a 2 or 3 week wait. So I went right over to the radiology department and they did an ultrasound. The radiologist came in and he said, I'd just like to do a biopsy on it just to make sure that it's not anything serious. And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So I went a few days later, got the biopsy. And then I was asked by Cosmo to go do this Azerbaijan press trip. It was for the inauguration of their winter season, which had nothing to do with beauty, but I love to travel. And whenever I get an opportunity to go somewhere that I haven't been
Right.
before, I always try my best to take it. So I went on the trip and it was the first day. I flew in, they flew us economy class, which I was like, are you kidding me? Because usually on these press trips, you get business.
Excuse
Yeah. So
me.
I already was cramped and I was kind of in a bad mood about that. And I was tired. And I was on this bus with all of these random influencers from around the GCC and then a bunch of Russian journalists for this trip. And they said to me, oh, yeah, the bus ride is 4 hours. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Like, I just went in my mind when I was going on this trip, I thought it was just going to be something really easy, just kind of slide in,
Right.
see Azerbaijan, and leave. And so I
Right.
didn't realize we were going to be trekking it. So I'm on this bus, and the bus driver starts playing Azerbaijani house music. This is like hour 3 into
Oh,
the
I need
ride.
to know what that sounds like.
And I have right next to me some Qatari influencer, and he brought his own hype man. He had this hype man with him, and the hype man was literally just hyping him up the entire time. And the guy was like, "Oh, I know this song." And he's behind me and he's going like this. And the bus driver ends up making the bus dark and puts on these strobe lights. And I'm like thinking to myself, I should be home right now with my kids and my husband. Like, what am I doing? Why did I say yes to this? And I had said to my doctor, if you get the news, I said, just send me a thumbs up or thumbs down emoji. Like, my doctor and we're very friendly. And I mean, just joking around, but I really didn't think it was going to be anything
Right.
serious. And all of a sudden, I get a text message from her and she writes, my love. And right then and there, the music's blasting, the strobe lights are going. I've got this guy, but I can feel the wind coming from this guy and his like hand that he's doing right behind me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have breast cancer." And then it was 4 words, "It is breast cancer." And I was floored. I could not believe it. And I mean, it was as if everything around me went dark. Like I went into this black hole and everything slowed down. My brain slowed down. Everything got dark and I could just only hear my breathing. And it was just one of those life-changing moments. I was on
Mhm.
some horrible little road and, it was gray outside and it was cold and it just reflected the news I had just gotten. So I
Did the people around you notice
N
that there's
no,
something?
they were so involved in themselves.
Right.
That's one thing I've actually come to realize about people. If you walk into a room and you're worried about what you're gonna look like, or if you walk into a room and everyone's talking to each other, you don't know a single soul, don't worry about how you're going to be perceived because everyone is literally just thinking about themselves.
Right.
No one's focused on anyone else. So I didn't tell anyone there and it was all men. I mean, what was I going to say? And so I got off the bus. We arrived at the hotel and the one of the women running the trip, I went up to her and I said to her, "I've just been diagnosed with breast cancer. I need to go back to Dubai right
Oh.
now. And she was so gracious, so understanding. And she said, "Okay, let me help you." And so I ended up spending the night in the hotel room. And the next morning, I was picked up super early, maybe 5 a.m., and brought to the airport. And I came back to Dubai. My husband picked me up, and I had, been texting my
So he
family
knew
and
that you texted them what was going
yeah, and
on.
I
Okay.
texted my parents, I texted my husband, and I think I texted a couple of my really close girlfriends. And my husband sent me a note back, and he said, "No matter what happens, I'm here by your side. We're going to get
Mm.
through this." And
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
you're the strongest person I know, something like that. And then he picked me up from the airport, and what ended up happening was just so many tests, exams. I felt like a human pincushion. I was getting poked and prodded all the time. And I ended up needing two surgeries, lumpectomies, not mastectomies. So there was two tumors in my right breast, and they took them out. And then I was told that it actually had, unfortunately, spread to my lymph nodes. And when it
Um,
spreads to your lymph nodes, that means you're going to have chemotherapy. So I went through 6 months of chemotherapy, which was probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through. It tested me in every way, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, every single way. And then I went through 25 rounds of radiation. And in November of 2024, so last November, I was given the all clear. I am cancer
yay!
free. Yay!
Yay!
The journey is far from over. I'm on hormone blockers. So, the type of breast cancer I had is the most common type of breast cancer,
Right,
and it's actually fed by your estrogen. That estrogen is responsible for keeping us so beautiful and youthful. That's our menstrual cycle.
right.
Everything is estrogen for a woman. And unfortunately, estrogen is the food of my cancer. So right now, I am postmenopausal. I'm in a forced chemical menopause. I have my joints hurt. I wake up every morning so stiff. I get hot
Wow.
flashes. I have my eyebrows have completely thinned and fallen out. I'm getting microblading next week. And it's a new normal that I'm adjusting to with my body. I will be on the hormone blocking medication for 7 years until I essentially would be close to 50 and hit my normal menopause.
Wow.
And, it's just something that I've made my peace with. And I'm so happy to be alive. I'm happy I get to see my kids grow up. I'm happy I get
Oh,
to,
that
see my brand come to fruition. And, it's something. Breast cancer saved my life in so many ways. I was like a hamster on a wheel, and I was just going, going, going without really taking a step back and thinking. And when I was going through chemotherapy, I was so weak and sick, and I was just in my bed all the time. But what that gave me was a lot of blank space to start to really reevaluate my life and think, who's in my life? Do I like all the people in my life? What relationships am I just continuing just because I'm continuing them, not because they're actually benefiting
right.
me or the other person in any way. I just did a 360 reevaluation of my life, and I started to design the life I really wanted to live. And I said to myself, when I get out of this on the other side, I'm going to live that life. And I'm going to start making those changes now.
I want to It's interesting you're saying this. Why why does it take an illness for people to realize what is really important
I
in life?
know. I think what it is that we get so caught up in the day to day. And, for me, it's making sure my kids are, every aspect of their lives is, being met, or all their needs are being met. And then it's trying to fulfill duties for the magazine. It's trying to put out my own beauty brand, maintaining all my friendships and going out with friends and maintaining my
Right,
marriage and, and taking care of things around the house. And, there's just so many things. And you just get sucked up into it. It's like a
right,
whirlpool. And then when you have this life changing event happen where all of a sudden it's like you're a truck going forward at full speed and you hit a wall, and then everything stops.
Wow.
You start to think to yourself, wait, why was I doing that so much? Why was I so worried? Why
Wow.
was I tired and I didn't even really like the person, but I still went out with them? You start to really see stuff like that and
Right.
these patterns that you have. And then you start to think, why do I have these patterns? And, that's an even deeper dive. And it really can turn into this wonderful breast cancer was a wonderful tool of self realization for me.
Wow. So when you were sitting in that hospital bed,
Mhm.
I mean, I could tear up because I have someone very close. Oh, I'm tearing up.
It's okay. Uh, uh, what is it? Uh, Crying releases
Yeah.
resistance. It's a resistance that you have, and it's a beautiful thing. That was actually before I got diagnosed with breast cancer. I hadn't cried in about 5 years.
Wow.
'Cause I
Thank
just
you.
my thing was always don't cry about it, just fix it. Just
Right.
do it, like, deal with
Right.
it. That was just my mentality. And after I was diagnosed, I started crying a lot, and it was so cathartic. And
Right.
I was like, "Wow, I really love crying." I always feel so much better
It
afterwards,
is. It's to
you
me,
know?
it's like why I want to ask you, like, because someone very close to me, had breast cancer last year,
Uh-huh.
and you always hear about it,
Yeah.
but then when you either yourself experience it or someone that is so close to you,
Yeah.
it's just like it's just so scary because
Yeah.
you always feel like how it will never happen to me. It will never happen,
Yes.
or no, it will never happen to a person that is so close to me, right? So when you were sitting on your hospital bed, what did you think about, like, let's call it God or the universe?
Mhm.
What was your conversation like in that moment?
So, when I was first diagnosed and I was in that hotel room flipping off the moon. I was feeling at that time like angry, sad, scared,
Right.
all those types of emotions. But I also knew that this was somehow like I just had this strong feeling that this was always going to be part of my life plan. This was part of my destiny. I knew I was
Right.
somehow chosen for this because on the other side of it, I would go on to do things to really make a real actionable change. Like I was going to be an advocate. I was going to spread awareness. I was going to support other women. I was going to help other women get their treatments. I knew that that was in the cards for me down the road. And I knew that, I had been chosen for this. And actually, I was later on talking to one of my spiritual mentors. She's completely off the grid, and she is just the most connected person I've ever met. And she was saying, this was something that you chose before you incarnated,
Yeah.
a big event to
I
go
believe
through.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for some people it's probably going to be like, why
Yeah.
would you say that? Like, what does that mean? Like, it was chosen for you or you chose that life. Like, I
Yeah.
have that belief as well, but for a lot of people that might sound weird.
Yeah. Which is okay.
Which is okay,
Yeah.
Um I have to say, and I don't know how to word it exactly, but you were such a bubbly person before
Hmm.
you got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I saw that on your Instagram. Even when I met you the first time, you're such a bubbly
Yeah.
person. And then it was so interesting because you stopped posting, and I
Yes.
realized it. And I think even I said, "Hey, how are you?" Like, I started noticing like you're not popping up my feed anymore, my stories. And I was like, interesting." And then when you started posting about it and it showed the journey, which I think is so beautiful
Oh, thank you.
because a lot of women don't like to show that part.
Yeah, I know.
But how, like, when you started posting about it, I feel like you became even more. beautiful,
Oh, thank
more
you.
energy, more it felt like you reached home to me.
Yeah.
Like when I look at you now when you post, to me it's like, "Oh, Lauren is home."
Yeah, I love that.
You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
gonna sound weird, but it's like you said, it's like it's meant for you to go through this to
Yeah.
help not just yourself, your daughter, but so many women out there.
Yeah.
Because what I saw and I read, maybe you can tell me a little bit more, but one of 8 women
Yes.
get breast cancer,
Yep.
and that's a scary number,
Yeah, it
right?
really is. It's so shocking.
Why is it still happening? Like why is it that we women don't go and get it checked if we're all clear?
I I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have so many different thoughts on everything you just said. And I think that what will happen down the road in the future is they're going to find that there's certain things in our detergents and in
Right?
things that we're eating, things in our beauty products,
Yes.
plastics that we're exposed to.
Yes.
All of these things are going to
Right.
somehow contribute to the breast cancer
Right.
occurring in women. And I think also in the spiritual community, they'll tell you it's because you have trapped emotions
Oh,
and
it's going there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that expresses itself as different diseases.
Yes.
The disease is a dis-ease. And while I do believe that as well to an extent, um, I, I don't have an answer for why it happens to so many. I heard that it's actually 1 in 3
One in
in Dubai.
three.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I've been told that. I think actually maybe even my oncologist told me that.
Wow.
So it's something that, when I was going through it, I decided that because energy is real, I didn't want so much energy on me from other people if I started posting about what I was going through while I was still going through it.
Right.
And so I decided that I wanted to wait and then announce the news through
Right.
Cosmo because at least if I wrote something heartfelt and put it into the magazine, that would also reach so many other women potentially.
Right.
And I just thought that would be a beautiful way to announce it. I did a photo shoot and I
I
was
know I
bald.
saw it. I loved it. It's such a beautiful photo
Oh, thank
shoot.
you. And that was my choice on how to do it. And actually, I have gotten some hate for that,
For
ironically
what?
from other women with breast cancer,
Why?
saying that I should have advocated from the beginning and that, I'm very, what was it, self centered. Oh my goodness.
That
Some
is
of,
so
yeah, all
disgusting.
of the hate I've gotten though is from other women with breast cancer. So I think sometimes what happens is people just get triggered when they see how you approach the
Yes.
diagnosis and how you approach a tough situation in
Right.
life, and maybe they didn't approach it that way, they
Right.
didn't have the same mindset, they're triggered by it and they just become like the keyboard warrior.
Right.
But it's so important, of course, to get the mammograms. It's so important to, even if you're getting your mammograms, you still have to do the breast self exam. That's how I found mine. And it's just continuing to spread that awareness. I did find out when I was going through breast cancer that there is, I don't remember the exact percentage, but it is so high of how many women, husbands leave their wives while they're going through treatment. And I was told a big
Oh.
reason why certain populations don't go and get the mammograms because they're afraid of what they're going to find on it and they don't want their
Mm.
husbands to leave them.
That's so
So I
sad.
know, I know. I know. And I'm on a lot of different Facebook groups for, support with breast cancer, all those sorts of things. And there are many posts of women saying, my husband's divorcing me or my husband is smoking cigarettes in the house while I'm going through chemo or, doing all these other things and I just felt so incredibly grateful for my husband
Yeah,
who
so how did
yeah,
that change your relationship to your
I
family, husband,
um
kids?
well, we My approach with my kids was there's no question, and this is actually my approach in life with them, is no questions off limits.
I
And
love
trust
that.
me, they ask me crazy questions. I'm just like, okay, you're a little bit too young for this. But I'm very open. So they were allowed to ask me anything and everything. I shared with them what was going on. And they came to appointments with me when they could, when they weren't in school. And my husband came to every single appointment with me. Every
Oh,
doctor's appointment, every procedure, of course, every surgery, every chemotherapy appointment, every radiation appointment, he was there. And
wow.
actually, he did miss one chemo. And that's because my son came home with some horrible virus from school. My husband caught it. And he told me, he's like, I feel so sick. And he said, but we're still going to go to chemo. And I said, no, I have no immunity right now. When you're on chemo,
Right.
you basically have the immunity of a newborn baby. There's nothing there. And I said to him, you need to stay away from me. Like we have to this is COVID times now. Like you need to
Right.
quarantine yourself and stay away from me. I can't get sick. And he said, "Well, what if I just put the mask on and in the car, I just drive you there?" I said, "That's still the same thing. We're in a close space. I'm breathing your air. You
Right.
need to stay away." And he was so upset that he'd missed that chemo with me because he wanted to be there for me. And I gave him such a hard time after that. I said to him, "You're a little too supportive." So, but he was absolutely amazing with the way he handled everything. And there were a lot of times where I was just breaking down because I was gaining so much weight. And that was a combination of the steroids and the specific, I think it's the chemotherapy that they give you. It does something where most people lose weight when when they
Right.
have cancer and they're going through treatment. Breast cancer is the opposite.
Right.
Most women gain weight. And there's some sort of I don't remember. It's like a metabolic thing where you just store fat so
Right.
easily. So I was just ballooning up, and plus I was on the steroids. My hair had fallen out. I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes. My face was covered in acne from the steroids. And I was just looking in the mirror and I looked like a giant potato. A potato that had been, because I'm so fair, the potato like that had
Right.
just
Right.
been,
Right.
it was like I was this peeled potato. And I just thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, I am hideous. I can't believe I look like this." And he was always so supportive and encouraging. And he was always say to me, "This is just a season. You're going to get it back. You're still, you look great," which of course was a lie, but I appreciated it anyways. And he was wonderful. He was absolutely wonderful. And my parents were always messaging me every day.
Right.
I told my mom, "Don't come out. I'm so sick. It's a waste of a trip." And when I went home this past Christmas, my dad, who is 78 years old, I think, and he has hated tattoos his entire life. He hated tattoos with a passion, just hated them. He showed me on the first night I was back, he lifted up his shirt and he had gotten a tattoo of the pink ribbon. Yeah.
Oh.
And my mom got a tattoo as well, and she never had had a tattoo before.
Oh, that
And
is
I
so
thought I was trying to scratch it
beautiful.
off them. I thought it was temporary, and they're like, "Stop, that hurts." And they both got tattoos for me, which I thought was so cool and just so meaningful and heartfelt. So, it was during breast cancer I realized how truly loved I am, and that's something I didn't really see before.
Right.
I just felt like I was always serving everybody else in
Right.
some capacity or another. And I realized just how loved I am. And that's been a beautiful realization.
So, what do you feel like is the biggest change after all of this?
In my life
Yeah.
I think perhaps my mindset. I've always had more of a positive mindset and I can always see the positives in everything. But now that I've come face to face with my mortality, actually, you know what I would say? I've realized how much I love being alive and I love life. Whereas
Mm.
before, I feel like, it was just like I have to get through this day or this is such a chore. And now I'm more choosy with what I do. I
Yeah.
love saying no to
I
things.
love saying no.
I love JOMO, joy of missing out.
Love that.
Yeah, me too. And I I'm just conscious with what I'm doing with my time, where I'm
Right.
putting my energy, and just being really choosy, and just becoming even more self-advocating than I was before. So for me, it's been a beautiful, I guess you could almost call it like a second awakening.
Right.
I've emerged into this upgraded version of myself that, is
Wow.
even better than I was before.
So how does that translate into your work now? Like, do you choose or are you more careful with what kind of brands you promote or what parties you go to? Because what a lot of people don't understand is, and we talked about it just right before, everything is energy. So
Yeah.
even the products that you use are is energy, right?
Yes.
Like how it's manufactured by the person who touched it. Like
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into that. So, how do you, after everything that happened to you, is there a different process now on how you promote the brand?
Well, in terms of my personal social media, I've always been really discerning with what I show on my own pages.
Right.
I've never liked, I just I can just see through the BS, and
Yeah.
so I've always been very discerning about that sort of thing. In terms of Cosmo, I mean, I can put my own opinion into it so far, but of course, it's not just it's not about me, it's about the magazine. So while I still showcase a wide variety of brands. I mean, even more so, I'm always trying to promote the little guys, the up and coming, and I love homegrown brands,
Right.
especially ones that use ingredients from the
Right.
region. I think that's so cool, and I just love supporting women, so I always will opt for a woman-owned brand over a male-owned brand. And that's just a continuation of who I am. In terms of my time and energy, I go to far fewer events these days just
Right.
because I'd rather honestly be at home with my kids. If it's something that I feel is meaningful and impactful, yeah, I'll definitely go. And that could also be meaningful to me in just terms of networking. But
Right.
if it's just something that's not quite pulling at me,
Right.
then I'd much rather be at home in bed with my daughter watching something on Netflix. And so that's what I do.
So for the people, especially women who are watching and who are going through what you went through,
Mhm.
what do you want to tell them?
So I think I need to trademark this because I'm definitely going to write a book, and I it's too long for a title, but there is so much more life to live after diagnosis.
Ooh, I
And
felt that.
and it's not the end. It's actually a beautiful new beginning if you allow it to be. So that is my message.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, thank you.
That's really
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you.
One more thing before we end this beautiful conversation, because I could talk to you for hours.
Same.
God, we're gonna do it again. But I saw a few days ago you posted a video
Uh-huh.
about 6 things
Yes.
not to say to
Yes.
someone who has had or has cancer.
Yes.
Can you say the 6 things one more
Sure.
time?
So, number one, if you know someone who has been recently diagnosed with breast cancer or is going through treatments, don't tell them about someone you know that had breast cancer and died from it. You would be surprised by how many people said to me, "Oh yeah, my husband's best friend's wife had breast cancer and she died." And they'll say it like quietly, "She died." And I'm sitting right there. This happens so many times. I'm bald. Like I look horrible and I feel horrible. And then I'm hearing that. And I just think to myself, Are you not, do you just lack
Right,
consciousness? Are you
right,
just not aware of what you're saying?" And people try to be relatable, like they want to
right,
relate to it, but they just say the wrong thing.
right,
So don't do that. The second one was if someone tells you privately, and this is what happened to me, if someone tells you privately about their diagnosis, don't go and then tell other people. Like everyone knew that I was keeping it a secret. And, I only told select people. And one person I told went on to tell somebody else who then told somebody else. And I was getting
Mm,
DMs from a person I would prefer not to get any DMs from saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry about your
right,
diagnosis," while I was going through it. And that honestly, that really pissed me off.
right.
And when I posted that video, that particular person messaged me and was like, "I know number 2 is about me." And I was like, "Yeah, it is about you."
Wow.
But I've been in therapy for quite some time. I started when I was going through chemo, and I did it to just help me grieve, grieve the old life I was leaving behind. And one of the things I realize is what a people pleaser I can be. And that directly comes from my childhood, being the oldest
Right,
daughter, that whole thing. And she said that sometimes it's okay to let people be uncomfortable. And so when the person DM'd me, I just wrote thank you
right.
and just left it at that. And that wouldn't normally have been the me before. I would have said, well, I understand and blah, blah. But I just said, no, thank
Now you
you.
just took your power back.
Yeah,
In that moment, you
exactly.
just took your power back.
Exactly. So number 3 was, don't ask someone what their prognosis is, because you're essentially saying, well, how bad is your cancer? Are you going to die from
Right,
it? So I had people say to me, I don't know what your prognosis is. What is it? And that is so rude. So instead, if the person tells you what stage they're at, you can do your own research and
right,
figure out what their chances are. But even if that person has stage 4 breast cancer, which is sort of the terminal one,
right,
you have to remember that at the same time, people with stage 4 breast cancer, although it's not curable, it's treatable.
right.
And they can still go on to live a very long, happy, and fulfilling life. So keep that in mind. Um, number 5, what was number 5? Uh, oh God, I still have chemo brain. I can't remember everything. I remember number 6 was don't tell someone that they look fat. I had been
Who
told
does that?
people do it. So people were like,
That
"Wow,
is
you've
so
gained so much
wrong.
weight." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I know." And actually, I did tell someone off for saying that to me while I was going
I
through
would
treatment.
literally punch
Oh,
that
I was
person. I'll
so
be
mad.
like,
I was
let's go
so mad.
outside.
I know.
That's it.
So many people said that to me.
That's
Or, "Why are you
horrible.
not losing weight? You have cancer." And then I'm like, "Well, do I stand there and then explain to them that with breast cancer you tend to gain weight, or do I just let it go, or what do I do?" So,
Some people are just like, you just need to shake them and like
yeah,
slap
I
them.
know. I did my best to do a verbal slap.
Right. Good for you.
And then someone else said to me, this was number 5, is, "Oh my gosh, I would die if I had to lose all my hair." And my response is, "Well, actually you would live because you're going through chemotherapy, which is a life-saving treatment."
Yes,
And I mean, I was a glam girl. I feel like I still am,
you
but
are.
I had long, beautiful hair like you, and I loved my hair. I took such good care of my hair, and it was devastating for me to
Oh my
lose my
God.
hair. It was so hard.
Especially for women, because that's
Yeah.
our,
It's our
that's our,
crown.
yeah,
And I mean, also in being in the beauty
yeah,
industry and, being a beauty editor, people expect you to look a certain way, especially being in
right,
Dubai and being a beauty
right.
blogger in Dubai. And, I was the opposite of that. And so when someone said that to me, it was just so callous. It was so heartless. And I just, my advice is just keep those comments to yourself. No woman wants to lose her hair. Every woman is going to think to herself, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose
Right.
my hair. But the thing is, you just don't have to say it to the person that has just lost their hair.
But I have to tell you, honestly, you're rocking that
Ah,
short hair.
thank you.
Like it looks really
Thank
good
you.
on you.
Thank you so much.
Really.
A lot of people have told me I should keep it. I will tell you, whatever it took for you to do your hair this morning and like your beautiful
Dang.
waves and everything, it took me a fraction of the time to get ready. I never realized how much time I spent on
Right?
doing my hair. And I said to my husband when I went bald, I said to him, you've had a lot of free time on your hands for the last 42 years.
Right.
I said, what have you been doing with all that free time? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, it took me, 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes to do my hair.
Yeah.
I said, what were you doing during
Right.
that time? And he was like, living my life.
Uh,
And, so I will say that I really love and appreciate how easy my hair is right now. I am going to grow it back out. And I know one day I'll be standing in front of the mirror doing with the curling iron and all that, thinking to myself, God, I had it so easy back then.
that's
So
true.
there's a silver lining to it. And, I feel like I'm in my Twiggy era, my Halle Berry era.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
I'm
Right.
just enjoying it for what it is.
So again, I can literally talk to you for so long. I want to know two things.
Uh-huh.
Let's get it closer. When is the skincare coming out?
Okay, so that is the question of the hour. I'm losing sleep over this. Um, there have been, you know, few delays along the way. It was actually going to come out last May, and that was the plan. And then I delayed everything, and I actually changed my product. So I'm
Right.
only coming out with one product at first. I'm marketing it. It's my hero product. It's so
Exciting.
good. I am obsessed with this product. It's something that's never come across my desk before as a beauty editor or a blogger. I thought it up, and it's a skincare product, and I think it's just going to rock so many women's worlds. They're going to think, "How did I never think of this?"
Oh my
I
god, I'm
know a
so
bunch of brands are going to
excited.
copy me, and I'm already mad about it. But, it's something that is just
Yeah, but you're gonna be forever an OG, like the
the OG.
original
Yes.
person, so the people can
So,
copy.
it's a fantastic
Oh,
product.
I'm excited!
Yeah, and so I was just told that I will have it by June 1st. And you're in the beauty industry. The summer is the worst month or the worst season
Yes,
to launch a brand.
yes,
So I'm thinking, well, now I'm going to probably push it back to September, October when, things pick up
perfect.
again. And I feel disheartened about that because I am just ready to go. It's like I have not that I'm a runner, but it would be like as if I'm all set for the Olympics. And then I'm just standing there at the starting line and, I'm just ready to take off. I would never do that because I hate
I
running.
would never do that. I don't care, but you will
Yeah.
not see me running outside.
Same. So it looks like it's going to be September, October, and it's important to me that the brand has a good birthday.
Right.
I wanted the
And
brand to be an Aries
right.
because I think Aries, they're such go getters and they have so much fire in them and forward motion. And, I thought it would be so cool for my brand to be an Aries. So now we're looking at the brand being a Virgo, a Libra, or a Scorpio.
I'm
So
just
I
saying,
got to figure
I
that out.
think the Virgos
You know what?
are
I was
the best
Virgo. Are you a
ones.
Virgo?
I mean, we are
Virgos are
just
so good with
amazing and
business.
perfect
Yes.
and great and
They're
like
organized.
well,
They
I'm
are
not. That's the
business
other thing.
minded.
I think I'm the only Virgo out there that is not
Oh,
organized.
maybe you have like some Pisces in your
I don't know. I
chart
don't know
that
what
like
I
more
have.
flowy and
But
watery.
if you look at my I don't even want to talk about it. Anyway, so tell everyone where can they find you?
Oh, okay.
Give them your IG handle or
Sure.
anything. So,
So all of my handles are the same. It's at Lauren, LAUREN dot CONNELL. So Lauren O'Connell with two dots between the O. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm trying to figure out TikTok. I put really good videos on TikTok. And then just as an experiment the other day, I put this really stupid video
and
on
it went
TikTok
viral.
of my son locking me in my office by accident. He ripped off the
Right.
handle and I had to throw it to him out of the window. And I just thought to myself, put that on TikTok and see if it takes off. Sure enough, that's the one that has
Yeah.
it has, I think, 20,000 views now.
Wow.
And people were saving it. Why? Why do you
Wow.
need to see that again? It's
Again, the people.
ridiculous. But
Just saying.
I'm on TikTok. I'm trying to grow that. I'm on YouTube. That's where I have the most of
Right.
my followers. And I have a blog called planetlauren.com.
Oh, you guys should
Yeah.
check it out.
Yes.
Go follow her, especially so we can see the amazing beauty product
Yes.
that's coming out.
Yes.
But Lauren, I just want to say, and I really, really, really mean that you are such an inspiration,
Oh, thank you.
such a beautiful person inside and out.
Thank you so much.
I am so happy and glad that I can call you a friend.
Oh, thank you.
And
Same.
We're all here. We're 1000% going to support you. We're going to have dinner. We're going to talk about some
Amazing.
stuff.
Can't wait.
But I appreciate your support always. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Hey!
Yay!
Well,
Yay!